Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone from Germany, it is a singer Doro, or Doro Pesch if you prefer. Her new album is Forever Warriors Forever United. It is a double disc of new material because 10 songs wasn't enough, so you get a lot more. She will also be in North America in May. We'll be at the M3 Festival, the M3 Rock Festival in Columbia, Maryland. As you know, my preferred choice of festivals. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, at Mitch Lafon, recently I put up a pick'em, for the lack of a better word, between John Bonham and Neil Peart. And the one and only guitarist for a Black Country Communion and his own solo stuff, Joe Bonamassa, took at it and called it a lame comparison, to which I replied, well, what exactly were you picking? It could have been which one I want to listen to first tonight, you know? And to which he replied, well, that was a lame answer. You were obviously setting it up as clickbait. And I find this interesting because on Twitter, well, at least for me, since I don't put up links to anything other than the show, when you do a pick'em and there's no link, there's nothing to click. Therefore, not clickbait. Just going to throw that out there. If there's nothing to click, there's no clickbait. Just seems logical. Anyway, we are the day after Christmas. I continue the Mitch Marathon Month Holiday Edition. Somewhere, in the first week of January, we'll put an end to this. But we got a lot of great interviews coming up. Other than Doro today, my Lord, we have got George Lynch, Dean Castronovo, Peter Noon, Desmond Child, Frank Marino, one-time Foreigner singer Johnny Edwards, Charm City Devils, Mark LaFrance, Tony Montana of Great White. Just a lot of great content. And, in fact, let us get to the content. Pourquoi pas? Why not? We love Doro. I got to say, if you've never met her, you're missing out. She is one of the nicest people ever. Forget the nicest people in rock or favorite rock star. Forget the whole rock. Just one of the nicest human beings. Period. General. Period. End of story. In general. Forget. Oh, she's one of the nicest rock stars. No. Forget that. One of the nicest people you will ever meet. So incredibly genuine, sweet, nice, kind. I've been in areas where she's been backstage. I've never seen her throw a temper tantrum. I've never seen her have any kind of attitude. Her band has stuck with her. I'm trying to think now, if you look at Johnny D and the other guys, I think they've been there like 20, 25 years, which, as you know, in a band, that's not always obvious. Members come and go. You look at the classic Kiss lineup, it was really only sort of together for 8 years. Anyway, so without further ado, let us listen to Forever Warriors Forever United is the new release. Here is Le Seul et Unique, the one, the only, Doro. We are speaking with a German legend, the one, the only, Doro Pesch. Bonjour, Doro. Do you like that introduction, by the way?
Oh, actually, anything positive makes me happy.
No, I do think you're legendary. So, you've been at it for, 35, 40 years? I mean, it's...
Yeah, 37 years now, yeah. Next year it will be 37 years.
That's
my first band I had actually in 1980. It wasn't Warlock, it was a different band. It was called Snakebite, then Beast, then Attack, and then Warlock in 82, and our first album came out 83. So we are always counting the years from the first album. But but I'm doing it. As long as I can think, I'm addicted to music. So yeah,
it is. And so there's a lot to talk about. The M3 festival, the Rainbow thing, a special duet with another singer that we'll get to in a minute. But I want to ask you this real quick, because I was talking with Mark Staras of Crocus, and Sony Music in Switzerland just gave them an award for 15 million albums sold worldwide. And so I posted that on, right, pretty incredible, right? Going back to 1980.
Yeah. Yes, unbelievable. Like, wow, congratulations.
Right.
Yeah.
And I posted that on my Twitter and I posted that on my Facebook, on my socials. And fans that were based in North America, both, Canada and the US, were like, no, it can't be. It's got to be 15 Swiss platinum albums, which is 300,000. It can't be 15 million. What are you talking about? Such a crock of... And there seems to be this perception that if you're not big in Canada or you're not big in the States, you don't exist. And yet when we look at your career, and you played that gig in the arena, I guess it was in Dusseldorf, and you're on tour there all the time, getting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. Talk to me a little bit about that perception that, well, if you're not big in the States, you don't exist. And, you look at Thunder and at Gothard and at Status Quo and at Doro and at Crocus, and you go, well, wait a minute. Rose Tattoo in Australia, you go, wait a minute. You can be a successful star and not necessarily be huge. Talk to me a little bit about that, about the perceptions and the misperceptions of the music biz.
Well, I must say, in the 80s, and I really remember Crocus, they were huge, and they were always called like the AC/DC of Europe, and I remember they were really huge. And when we started in the 80s, man, metal was so big, and in the States as well. So everybody thought like, man, you're doing well, and we were on MTV heavy rotation. Our song "All We Are," that was like one of the big hits. So back then in the 80s, everybody perceived you as a big band. And then in the 90s, when grunge took over, especially in the States, when there was only grunge, then it was tough, man. It was difficult for normal metal bands. And in Europe, we could still do it, could still fill arenas. But in the States, grunge just was so big. So we had to fill smaller clubs, and then it's like sometimes, when the industry or when the media is not supporting you so much, then, then people kind of think it's not, it's not as big anymore. But like in Europe, we don't have so much rock radios or metal radios. There's nothing in TV except sometimes they show Wacken, this big heavy metal festival, but anything else, it's just the top 40 pop. But the culture where people go to concerts and festivals and clubs, that's huge. That's it's really huge, and you don't even need so much promotion. It's still word of mouth, and in the metalheads, they are they have a strong bond. There's a strong community. So when you're a diehard metalhead, immediately. And now with social media, you can find out much easier than it was 10 years ago. But but the live thing, that is huge. And in the States, when we play, it's always clubs, and I'm happy when the clubs are sold out. That's great. And I love festivals. That's why I'm so much looking forward to play the M3 festival. And we are a guest on the Rainbow Party. It's their 48th anniversary, and we will play there live, and actually it's open air. So I'm really happy to do it. Or the Monsters of Rock Cruise, we are doing it in February. So that's where I get really, really, really my, when I see the fans, they all still remember the good old school metal songs, and they remember the last records we did. So that makes me really happy. And of course it would have been nice to still play arenas like in the 80s, but it's it's a different animal now. And I always give it I always give it 150%, and and one day maybe it will be bigger. It's always up and down, and since I'm doing it for such a long time, I felt when you really thought, man, you've made it, then 2 years later, somebody else was bigger, and it always goes up and down. So you just have to do what you love, and there were always enough fans, where I thought, yeah, man, I still can go on tour, I still can fill, big places in Europe. We have a couple of territories where it's really huge, like South America or Spain, and England is like catching up again, like in Germany. So, some countries, they're more like, maybe there's a better scene. And at the moment, England is like getting huge again. And and that was actually important to me in the 80s. You had to prove it, in England to make it, to go out to the world and to get a America record release or worldwide record release. So it meant so good, it felt so good to me. I just won this award. It's the Angel of Rock Award. It was a couple of weeks ago when we started our tour in England, and I thought, that's so nice. It was so tough to crack that market, and now after all these years, they really, seem to appreciate it. And in America, I tell you, it's like when you work it, then things will happen. But sometimes you can't be there all the time because we tour all over the world. Or when I'm doing a record, I always, I take a long time to do a record. The last record, it took a couple of years. So
6 years.
But I always
it was 6 years between the two. Well, okay, let me ask you about this, because since you're mentioning the festivals, and I see that you're at Hellfest, and you've got the Night Festival, and the Parazer Classic Rock Night, and the Rocking the Bowl and Fire Steel 2020, and of course, Monsters of Rockin', and my favorite, M3. In Europe, they have what is sort of called the festival season, which is, the Wackens and the Hellfest and Sweden Rock. And we sort of expect it. Now, in North America, there seems to be a lot of cookie cutter festivals where it's always the same bands, but just in a different city. But M3 in particular is its own beast. Talk to me about how important a festival like M3, which really doesn't focus on the hottest band today. It focuses on the classic rock bands, the 80s bands. You've got your Bullet Boys on there, and this year you've got Bang Tango, and you've got Doro, and you've got Accept, and you've got Tesla, and you've got these bands that, some other festivals are forgetting. How important is it for you that this exists and that fans go check it out?
Oh, very important, Mitch. And I love all these bands you just mentioned. I think pretty much the same bands that will play on the Monsters of Rock cruise as well. And I was a big fan of Tesla and Bang Tango. And, I still love all these 80s bands with like great songs. They're great performers. Like sometimes, you really know they could learn from the best. And, and my first time when I saw like a band it was in 1980, and I was a big Judas Priest fan. So I went, to see them live in concert. And back then, you couldn't get any pictures. You just had maybe a cassette, and I went to the concert, and they blew me away. And I turned around to my guitar player and I said, wow, man, I can't believe Priest is even better live. And then the guy said, hey, Doro, that's not Priest, that's the support band. And I said, what? And he said, yes, that's Accept. And I couldn't believe it. They were so great, And then Priest, they hit the stage and they were phenomenal. But that was my first time that I saw like a band which I loved. I'm still a big Accept fan. So when you say they're playing on M3, man, it makes me so happy. And, it still gives me so much inspiration. And I love 80s metal. I love new bands, of course. I definitely want to go with the time, but I love 80s stuff. And, I was born and raised with the British wave of new heavy metal, or new wave of British heavy metal. And, and all that, like what reminds me on that. Yes.
I've never asked you this before, but you talk about how you love 80s stuff. Was it only just the hard rock metal, or did you on your off days listen to a Duran Duran or a Human League or a 99 Luftballons? Did you listen to any? No 99 Luftballons for you?
No pop music at all. I was always a metalhead, and to me, metal always meant freedom, extreme power, emotion, like, the real stuff. And like I liked, some blues bands, some bluesier kind of rock. And my first concert I've ever seen was Whitesnake, and that was 1980, and oh God, it was so fantastic. That was actually the reason why I wanted to cover one song by Whitesnake. It's on the latest album, Forever Warriors Forever Untied, and it's Don't Break My Heart Again.
That's right.
I love that song.
You can't see this, but I've literally got the album in front of me. You can hear me.
Okay.
I'm banging it down. It says, let's see here. It says, this is the limited slipcase, including 2 individual CDs with 3 bonus tracks each. So there you go. Caruso, Metal Is My Alcohol, etc. Well, Whitesnake. And okay, I was just asking you because of that 80s thing, just because, in the 80s, I liked everything. And today I got an email from one of the members of Huey Lewis's band. And it was so exciting. It's like, oh, somebody from Huey Lewis is like, I have that geek moment. But all right, let me get back to these festivals. So now, and on M3, by the way, unless I'm mistaken, you are the same night as Accept and Tesla. So it's going to be a it's going to be a powerhouse lineup. All right, so let's talk about this Forever Warriors Forever United. It is a double disc. So there was a period of 6 years from Raise Your Fist until there where we had the discussions and I said, well, what about some new music? And you're like, well, when we get there. And we got there 6 years later. And instead of just, well, here's 9 songs or here's 10 songs, you gave us with these bonus tracks 25 songs. You said, all right, you waited, here you are. And the music is sort of, well, I don't want to say all over the place because that sounds insulting, but you cover a wide spectrum. You go from Bastardos to All for Metal, which are infectious and in your face, to It Cuts So Deep, which is probably your softest ballad, and I mean that respectfully. Like it's just so tender and so sweet. And talk to me about it. It's about brushing with all just saying, listen, I'm going to give you everything I got, and you're going to get fast, and you're going to get slow, and you're going to get red, and you're going to get black, and you're going to white and blue, and we're just going to paint the canvas with everything I've got.
Yes, that's like, I feel that is me. That's the real truth, and I love it as extreme as it gets, as aggressive, fast, and I love it as sensitive and dark, romantic. I love the whole spectrum, and I love anthems, like something like All We Are or All for Metal. I love that so much, especially doing collaboration with so many other great artists and singers. That's like, I totally love it, And then this song you mentioned, It Cuts So Deep, I wrote it actually with David Bryan, the keyboarder of Bon Jovi, and he's a fantastic piano player and a fantastic musician. And we wrote it a while ago. And then I was listening to this demo and I thought, yeah, man, I want to put it on the disc because I asked the record company if they would allow me to do a double album. Usually, it's what you said, 9, 10 songs. And I had so many great songs. I thought, yeah, man, it wouldn't do it justice to just like we wrote about 40, 45 songs and then to just choose and pick 10 songs, that wouldn't have been right. So I asked if I could do a double album. And then after a couple of weeks, they said, yes, do it. You're doing it for such a long time. Just do it. So I could put on all songs, which meant so much to me, even a cover version, like from, Don't Break My Heart Again. There's a Motorhead cover version on it as well, which I love so much. It's the song Lost in the Ozone. I love Lemmy's lyrics and all. And then we could do it, and It Cuts So Deep. That was like a ballad I had for a long time, and I thought, yeah, I want to try it out. And while you're trying it out, while you're singing it, you can tell if something has magic or if something's just flat, Then you think, maybe a bonus track and whatever on the next album, or maybe never. But this one, I thought, yeah, it has so much, it feels so good, and it makes people, it probably touches their heart. It depends always on the mood and if you like ballads at all. I love them. And and I love the soulful stuff. Yeah. And I love the whole spectrum. And I know that you're a big Kiss fan. When I grew up with Kiss, like Kiss Alive 2, I love the heavier songs. I love the anthems. And I love ballads as well, So, And, sometimes, I think a record is like a whole, it's a picture. It's sometimes a mirror of the time. And when you said the 6 years between the last album, Raise Your Fist, and this one, we worked about 2.5 years on this DVD. It was a DVD. It had 4 discs. It was like, it's so long. I think it looks beautiful, and it was called Strong and Proud. And that was actually the whole career, the whole spectrum, and every song was like, yeah, we worked on all the details that it would sound awesome. And so 2.5 years purely in the studio working on this DVD, and then touring, and then doing a new record. So for me, it was just work. I didn't even realize that 6 years went by for a new album. So and touring, that's what I like most, Mitch. It's like, when you see the fans, that's like, that's what I live for. So in the studio, that's great. I love songwriting. I love recording, but touring and playing live, I think
that's the real
I'm
deal.
born to do that.
And by the way, going back to the conversation about Crocus and having 15 million sold and being big in that territory and stuff, well, you were number 4 in Germany with Forever Warriors Forever United. So, that's impressive.
And it was like not in the rock charts, it was in the regular charts where you have pop and rap. And I was like, yeah, man, it was great. It was very unexpected. It was great. And I think we sold about 10 million records all in all, definitely. And, like sometimes you say, you always sell good when the record company is behind you. I tell you that, when I was on a major label for most of the 80s, the 90s. And it was like, when they would push you, man, there was no stopping. And then sometimes they pushed somebody else. And even though you did a great record, but that was then much tougher. So sometimes everything falls into place. And I had this one time in my life, I think it was on the Triumph and Agony album. And I think the songs were great, the videos were great. MTV, they were very open to play all, our videos of this album. And then the second album, we thought, this will be easy. And then we went to MTV, did all these beautiful videos again. I think the first single was Wider Shade of Pale, and then Hard Times. They looked great video directors. And then the guys of MTV, they said, hey, we played your last record, on heavy rotation. We can't do that again. We thought, what do you mean? And, so it's like sometimes, you get all the power, all the support you need to make it really big. And sometimes, you're almost fighting alone, and I could always count on the fans. So I knew, that I could always do music, hopefully for the rest of my life, hopefully till the day I die. But, sometimes it's like, sometimes you get lucky and the flavor of the month, that stuff, like if people push a certain sound and then sometimes they said, it's too heavy. We can't play it on the radio. You have to do it a little bit more pop, radio friendly. And I said, no, I don't want to do it, And I said, well, if you don't remix the record, we can't put it out. And I thought, okay, then it will not come out, but I have to be happy with the sound and the songs, and and I can't just like write a pop song. That's not, if a hit happens and it sounds good to people, that's great. But to me, like sitting down and writing a pop song, maybe even with another songwriter, to just to do it to please to please the radio or the record company, I could never do it. It's
not you, though. I could hear a great reworked version of 99 Luftballons. I love that song, and I think you'd do it great. I think you would do great. But just I'm going to take away from the funny for a second and get in more into the respectful here. All for Metal has, of course, a whole bunch of players on there. You got Ross the Boss, and you've got my eyes. My eyes are hard to read because the printing on this CD is so small. But you got Chuck Billy. You've got Jeff Waters, if I can read correctly, because I don't have my glasses on.
Yes. Johann Heck of Amon Amarth and Miller of Creator. And
of course, Warrel Dane. Now, the importance of Warrel Dane, I should say. I said Dale, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that we are recording this on December 13th, 2019. and it is the anniversary of when he passed away, December 13th, 2017. Man, that guy, man, his voice, I saw Nevermore a bunch of times in Montreal, and it was just fantastic. He just had a voice. It was just great. Talk to me about, first of all, having him on the All for Metal track, and just what was it about him, about Warrel, that you just said, yeah, I need to know this guy, I need to work with this guy, we've got to do something together.
Yeah, I think, man, he was a total sweetheart and very creative and, very nice person. And besides being very talented and having a great voice. And I met him the first time on my first big America tour. It was in 1988 with Megadeth and Sanctuary. And that was when we met. And we immediately, started becoming friends and all over these years, we always kept in contact. And then I asked him if he would be a guest on my 25th anniversary. That's a while ago. That's 10 years ago. And he said, yes, I'm coming. And he came all the way from Seattle to Germany. I think he had to take 3-4 planes. And and then he was singing with us. And it meant a lot to me. And then I met him 2 years ago in Wacken. And I just had this new album in the making, and All for Metal, that seemed like, it would be like one of the singles because it has such a nice anthemy character. So, when I was in Wacken, I was singing with Amon Amarth because I did a duet with Johan Heck on their album Jom's Viking. And then I was singing the song live. They wanted to record a DVD. So I had just one song to do, and then I was walking around talking to everybody, and I thought, heck, maybe I should, record the people who are here. And the first one who was on this track was actually Jeff Waters. I went to his dressing room. We are great friends for a long time, and he was singing on it, and I had a little video camera. And then Warrel Dane, he was there as well, and I said, hey, Warrel, would you maybe, be so kind and sing on the song, and be in the video? And he said, absolutely. And and then we were hugging each other, laughing, singing, and, and so that's the reason why he's in the video of All for Metal. And, and you can hear him, actually, there's so many people, sometimes you have a hard time listening to who is who, but he's in there, and his attitude, his energy, his good vibration, it's all in there. So I love it. And every time I see this video, you can always find it, on YouTube or wherever, for free. You can see him, and he looked really happy, and he looked really healthy, and, and I never did expect that, he wouldn't live forever. He was he was really doing good when I saw him. So I was super sad when I heard that he died. And I know he had some problems. I think he was drinking sometimes. But I think he was sober when I met him in Wacken 2 years ago, and he looked full of life, and had many plans, and he was super sweet, and one of the
great guy.
best.
He was a great guy, really, a really great guy. Oh boy. Anyway, we miss him, so may he rest in peace. I will start wrapping up here, and I'll get two more questions in, and one of them is just a sort of fanboy geek thing. I'm a big fan of Guns N' Roses. We all love Guns N' Roses. You had their current drummer, Frank Ferrer, in your band for 2 years, or a year and a half, 95, 96. Just, obviously he had nothing to do with Guns N' Roses in 1995, but what was it about Frank that he brought? Because he really sort of has a nice groove, a nice sort of swing to the way he plays, right? It's not sort of a quiet riot, Frankie Banelli, smash 'em, bash 'em kind of thing. It's more of a Peter Criss kind of thing, and yet it works in the metal context, right? Yeah,
actually, my drummer, who's now with us 26 and a half years,
that's right,
Johnny D, and he was the former drummer of Britney Fox. And when he joined in 93, I loved Johnny right away and stuff. And then he wanted to get married, and his former wife, she said, hey, you either go on tour or we get married. So Johnny said, hey, Doro, man, I want to get married. So, and that was the reason why we were starting doing auditions to have another drummer playing on this tour. It was the Machine to Machine tour in '95. And Frank, he was like the guy who had so much feel, like, oh man, and he could serve the songs so good, and it was like a no-brainer. Like, Frank was it, and he was powerful, and he had like a magic, his bass drum and everything, and I just saw him. He played here some big festivals, and I thought, wow, man, great, that he's now in Guns N' Roses. That's awesome. That makes me happy, and I'm always happy when people do good. And my former bass player Tommy Henriksen, he's now playing in Alice Cooper's band and working with the Hollywood Vampires. So everybody's doing pretty good, and I'm very happy. And sometimes, to me, I think, man, I had such a great musical life. I could play with the best people on earth, like Cozy Powell. He played drums on the Triumph and Agony album, and it's a joy for me to work with great musicians, and I always learn from them, and I just enjoy it. It means the world to me. So that's that's the Guns N' Roses thing, and I'm glad that you like Guns N' Roses. Actually, Slash,
Who
he played
doesn't?
on one
Come
of
on.
our records as well. Yeah.
Who doesn't like
it was
Guns?
actually the same. Yeah, it was the same time when we put out the Triumph and Agony album in '87, and we had this great video director. His name was Mark Wessica, and he said, Doro, come to LA and, get prepared for this video. And back then, I think the videos were even more expensive than the whole record production. And I went to LA, and we were hanging out, and then he gave me this little cassette tape, and he said, hey, check it out, there's some new bands on there. And then the first song was Welcome to the Jungle. I thought, wow, blew me away, and it gave me great energy. And actually, I listened to it before we filmed the All We Are video in LA, in the LA River Basin, and I remember I could tell, like, wow, man, this had magic and energy, so much energy. So
that band, man, great band. Oh, by the way, you mentioned David Bryan of Bon Jovi doing the "It Cuts So Deep." Does he end up on the album? Because I don't recall having seen that in the liner notes. He's not playing on the album.
No, we just wrote the song together. And my bands, Luca Punchotta and Johnny D and Nick Douglas, my bass player for the last 30 years, myself and Bas Mars, we did it as a band in the studio, and it sounded so good. At first I thought maybe David should play the piano, but our guys did so nice. It felt so good, and we were recording it live, like everything was live recorded in the studio. So that song you hear, it's that's the whole version. We played it a couple of times, and we thought, man, that's the one. So yeah.
And that's the way to record this whole stuff where you second guess yourself for 15 years is like Sabbath, man. Just go in 9 days or 9 hours or whatever the story is. You just go in, you lay it down, and you go home. That's the way. And before we go home, I don't want to forget, because we spoke about this before we started recording, and I don't want to forget it now. Lita Ford, on December 4th, 2019, she tweeted out a picture of you and Gary Hoey, and she wrote, looking forward to 2020, new album with Gary Hoey producing and special guest Doro on a sick as fuck duet. I wish you all a happy holiday season, and we will see you in 2020. She also tweeted out, when two queens join forces, coming in 2020, and there's a picture of you and her. So what is this mysterious or not so mysterious Lita Ford? So you've done something together, obviously. What is it, and when do we hear it? And I guess it's on her album, not yours.
Yeah, it's probably, we don't know yet. Maybe we do a couple of different versions. We already recorded so much great stuff. So it is for her record, but maybe I can put it on my upcoming album too, like maybe a different version and stuff, or maybe an acoustic version. And the song is great. And we met actually, the first time in the early 80s, and we did this photo session for Rip Magazine. Many fans might remember that, and we became great friends, and I always loved Lita. And then last year I was inducted into the Hall of Heavy Metal History, and it was actually in Wacken, and all the American guys, they came over and they gave me this great award, and it was such a nice experience. And then this guy, Steve Goldby is his name, he said, "Hey Doro, would you like to induct Lita Ford into the Hall of Heavy Metal History? It will be in LA or Anaheim." And I said, absolutely. So I went to, it was early this year, I think January, February, when the NAMM show was taking place as well. And then I gave her the award and inducted her into the Hall of Heavy Metal History. And we got along so great. And, and she's such a sweetheart. And then we said, hey, we got to do something together. It's long time overdue. Yeah, and then we started working on something. And then I just recorded something actually in New Hampshire in Gary Hoey's studio. Gary Hoey, very, very nice guy, very, like good, like sensitive, producer, awesome guitar player. So we had, like a killer time there. So and then 2020 it will 2020. Come out.
So I'm going to ask you this though. Because I know that there are some secrets that need to go. You can't really reveal everything, but out of curiosity, can you tell me, is it a cover song or is it an original song?
It's an original, yeah.
Okay.
It's an original.
All right.
And they might be, there might be different versions of the same song, like one very soulful one. And and they're just mixing as we speak. They're mixing it right now. And I'm very excited, so much looking forward to hear it. But I felt so good. And and I felt so comfortable singing. Lita and Gary, they made me feel so good. And it felt like family. And, and I could really sing my heart out. And, and it was pretty cool. Yeah. And hopefully we will do a video or that it hopefully will become a single. And
here's the real hopefully. Hopefully at M3, you're going to turn to the drum side and said, "And ladies and gentlemen, special guest Lita Ford," and then do a song together. That's the hopefully we're looking for. That would be great. Yeah. But because she doesn't live that far away.
Cooper around that time, so I don't know if this would work out, but
is she out with Alice Cooper?
Awesome.
Oh, so if she's out with Alice Cooper, you're going to have to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Lita Ford and Tommy Henriksen." Here you go. Hello. They're both coming out. That would be spectacular.
I would try, Mitch. But if it's not M3 Festival, then maybe one of these, other gigs or, festivals. And we certainly will do it. And I would love to do a whole tour together. I think this would be a nice package. And
Right. It would be great. On that, as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it was always good to talk to you. And I know you're a big Kiss fan, so I always feel like, we grew up with the same band, the same atmosphere, and that feels so good. And, our roots, I think they were pretty happening, pretty cool, man.
Absolutely, and we're in the same age group. You're in fact exactly my brother's age. So there you go.
That's cool.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeart Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter @Mitch Lafon and on Instagram @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.